Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite podcast with Amy Fournier. This show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonize your masculine and feminine energy, tap into your intuition, your true source of power, and awaken your authentic self. Today, I want to share with you a really cool article I came across by Stella Karagogi, and it's from the Fine Art and Art History Institute, and back in the 2022. But it really struck me. I was like, I really want to share this with my peeps. I want to share this with my audience. It shares the 8 ancient forms of the Great Mother Goddess. I think you might find it very educational because there's a lot of stuff we don't know about the goddess, like what is it and all that, which is part of the course that I'm working on, by the way, because long before there was any kind of recorded history or patriarchy or one male god figure like we have in Judaism and Islam and Christianity, there was the goddess. There was goddess cultures. I got a fun fact for you, by the way. Did you know that the first sculptured figurine found was actually of a woman? It was a goddess figure. So these cultures go like 30,000 years back, everybody. And we don't know about that. Like, who tells you that? Yep. Long before any idea of religion like we have today, there were goddess cultures. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it actually happened. So I want to share with you the Divine Feminine, 8 Ancient Forms of the Great Mother Goddess by Stella Karagogi. From the depths of history, the Divine Feminine was considered sacred and was worshipped as the matrix of creation. In many ancient societies, the nurturing nature of the Divine Feminine was associated with the concepts of fertility and creation, and took the shape of the Great Mother Goddess. We find the goddess religion in many parts of the ancient world long before patriarchal religions took over. Societies were structured and operated around these goddess religions, and they were ruled by a collection of priestesses who were devoted to ritual. Which, editorial note, by the way, I think it's interesting how now in the Catholic Church and Christianity, women aren't allowed to be priests, which is kind of ironic because, as we know, back in ancient societies, women were the priestesses. They didn't even have men as priestesses because the women were known to be the ones that were oracle and were intuitive and able to tap in. Women had a significant role and acted as priestesses and possibly religious leaders. For the most part, these societies were matriarchal and developed peaceful cultures with no fortification up until the appearance of the warrior societies. The Mother Goddess, often known as Mother Earth, is a matriarchal archetype represented frequently in ancient art and found in various mythologies around the world. Today, most of the major religions of the world, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, etc., have a male god. Oh, I was just saying that. And the only thing that testifies to the existence of a completely different world that celebrates the sacred feminine comes from the evidence of ancient artifacts from the distant past. For our ancestors, the embodiment of the divine feminine was the earth itself. The ancients, who had more direct contact and a greater relationship with nature, viewed the earth as this gigantic female being who gives birth and continuously creates life. They observed and witnessed the plants and animals being born on the earth's surface, multiplying and finally returning to her, only to come back again through regeneration. This is the cycle of life. A cycle that is maintained and steadfast, birth, death, and rebirth. Earth supports the whole ecosystem, the sky, the mountains, the trees, the seas, the rivers, the animals, the humans. She nurtures and heals us all. Ultimately, all life depends on her. She is the force of creation and destruction. Our ancients did not take this for granted, but saw all of these as blessed gifts and therefore considered themselves as children of the earth. Earth was the divine mother of all. The first written reference to Earth as a mother is traced back to ancient Greek writings. Gaia was the great goddess and mother of all creation for the ancient Greeks. The concept of Mother Earth, or Mother Goddess, was first recorded in the early 7th century BCE by the great Greek poet Hesiod. Hesiod recalls the story of the birth of the universe, when in the beginning it was only chaos, Gaia, and Eros. By the way, Eros is the son of Aphrodite, our girl, otherwise known as Cupid. The earth was therefore a primal deity. She was revered as the mother of all gods and living creatures and symbolized the rejuvenating care of Mother Nature. One of the oldest representations of female forms was discovered in the village Wildendorf in Austria. It is known as the famous Venus of Wildendorf, and it is estimated to have been made in Paleolithic times between 25,000 and 20,000 BCE. The sculpture is relatively small in size. It's only about 11 centimeters, so that's about 4 inches. And it depicts a voluptuous, faceless female figure with large breasts and a stomach that overhangs an emphasized pubic area. This figure is almost definitely associated with the concept of fertility, pregnancy, and birth. A characteristic of all the Paleolithic Venus figures is the lack of a face. According to the art historian Christopher Whitcomb, they are aniconic, so that as to place emphasis on the female body and what it signifies, namely fertility and childbearing, rather than a face, which is a key aspect in human identification. We find an abundance of female figures from the Paleolithic period, but not so many males. It is therefore assumed that women played an important role in Paleolithic culture and that a matriarchy may have existed. The Sleeping Lady is a small clay figurine discovered in a Neolithic burial ground in Malta. It displays a curvaceous woman laying on her side in a sleeping position on a bed. As a figurine, it was found on a burial site, and it's hypothesized by scholars that she may represent death or eternal sleep. The ancient art uncovered in Malta again indicates the existence of worship of feminine divinity and a prehistoric goddess of regeneration, birth, death, rebirth. We have to bear in mind that at this point, the society was moving from the status of hunter-gatherers to that of farmers. And with the introduction of agriculture and the civilization of crops, men came across new problems that threatened their survival. The idea of cultivation and the concept and creation of life was therefore inextricably linked with the female, who was also able to bring children into the world. The earth, therefore, is also a woman who receives respect and appreciation. Completely different than the previous voluptuous ladies are the famous climactic female figures from ancient art that have inspired many contemporary artists. With a focus on the religious dimension, we also interpret them as symbols of the divine feminine. The nakedness of the figures and the emphasis on the breasts and vulva directly refer to the concept of fertility. We also see bellies that suggest pregnancy. And then, of course, there's the classic, well-known snake goddess of ancient Crete. This is so cool. It's one of my favorite figurines. The concept of the mother of all the earth goddesses was celebrated in the ancient Minoan civilization of Crete. Their statuettes date back to the 16th century BCE. And here the snake goddess, as she is called, represents a very sensual female with exposed breasts who's holding snakes in her hands. It's really cool. She's definitely the depiction of a powerful priestess. The breasts may symbolize sexuality, fertility, or the supply of breast milk. And the snakes, of course, are often connected with the concept of regeneration, the underworld, and healing powers. because, snakes shed their skin, right? So they always symbolize regeneration. It's unfortunate the snake has been so maligned and it got all kind of misconstrued as to be an evil thing rather than a very powerful creature. We may never know for sure the function of these figurines, but they're the most admired works of art from prehistoric Crete. The society in which they were created centered on a well-organized system of local agriculture, which indicates that women played a dominant role in Minoan religion and society. And then we have the art and culture of the ancient Egypt. We come across the worship of an array of female deities who were associated with values, mortality, and order, as well as with woman's fertility, menstruation, conception, and the supply of breast milk. The Egyptian deity Mat represents truth, justice, balance, and cosmic harmony. She was depicted wearing an ostrich feather on top of her head. For the ancient Egyptians, the truth of the universe and the world was supported by Mat. It was believed by her devotees that after death, their hearts would be weighed against her white feather of judgment. And if they were as light as a feather, they would be permitted to enter Osiris's paradise kingdom. So she played a very important role. She basically determined who went to hell and who went to heaven in Catholic terms. Amazing. And it tells you a little insight as to the importance of the wisdom of the heart, by the way. So their hearts were weighed, and that's how they were judged, if they would go up or down. And then we have the Queen of the Night relief, which depicts a nude female figure with wings and bird talons. This one's super cool, standing on top of two lions. Picture that. So it's a female figure with wings, bird talons, and it's standing on top of lions, baby. She's wearing a headdress and an elaborate necklace and bracelets on each wrist while holding a rod and a ring. The figure was originally painted in red and the background in black. And of course, those are colors of alchemy, right? It is believed by scholars that this relief may represent either Lilith, who's the first woman before Eve, Estriel, or Ishtar, goddesses from ancient Mesopotamia. These goddesses were worshipped by the Babylonians and the Phoenicians. This figurine may represent fertility, sexual love, and feminine grace, but also possessed a darker spot. The divine feminine was connected not only with the concept of life, but also with war and death. This is something that's very important that most people don't realize. As it is in nature, you will find this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So it is with nature, with the goddesses. And then we have the classic figurine statue of the goddess with uplifted arms. That's what it's actually called. The goddess with uplifted arms. She was found in Cyprus. These figurines were excavated in various temple locations around the island, and they were dedicated to the worship of the local goddess. The worship of this goddess was influenced by the Eastern cult of Ashtar, which reached the island with the arrival of the Phoenicians, as well as the Mediterranean goddess of the Cretans. This female figurine is characterized by the gesture of her upheld hands and her uplifted arms, an influence that possibly came from Crete, as we will see also in the figurine of the goddess of the snakes. So the similarities in those two goddesses. These figurines are extremely important and may represent the priestess in a ceremonial gesture of worship, through that, the divine feminine. And I will just add, in conclusion, it's really cool because what I learned in my biogeometry training, which is the training of the energy of life and the energy of the center, and bringing that into our environment and everyday life, that we learn to clear ourselves and clear our auric field, clear our chakras, clear our energy field by lifting our arms up overhead in a V position. So lifting to the 10th chakra, which is 2 or 3 above the head, and making the sound hoo, hoo, which is known as the hakao, which is one of the ancient sounds of power, which all the pharaohs and priests knew back in the day of ancient Egypt. So it's really cool for me as a practitioner in modern day and age to see how this all came full circle, that's something that we do now with our arms straight overhead, making the sound vibration of who to clear our energy. And that's something that we're now discovering in the artifacts that these priestesses and really tapped in spiritual people that were healing people and the planet and promoting life and well-being, they were doing that as well. So isn't that cool how that comes full circle? And by the way, if you want to know more about biogeometry, you can check it out, my website store, and definitely listen to the 2 episodes. Two episodes. How lucky I am with the one and only founder of biogeometry, Dr. Ibrahim Karim. He was on Awakening Aphrodite twice. And I guarantee you will learn things about the divine feminine, masculine and feminine energy, and all of sacred life like you've never heard before. We'll put those in the show notes for you. It's a must listen. Anyway, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little jaunt into ancient goddess history and by the knowledge and the findings of some of the artifacts that actually people made and had part of their lives. I hope this gave you a little insight to modern life and made you feel magical and divine. And I can't wait to see you again on Awakening Aphrodite. And don't forget, we're on YouTube. You can find us at Awakening Aphrodite Podcast, Fit Amy TV. And I'm on Instagram at Fit Amy TV. That handle goes back to when I was doing fitness full time, but I kept it. So I hope to see you there. I love to know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for rating the show and leaving a review.